Jeet Banerjee, it's been a while, man.
Thank you. Yeah, no, great to be here. And yeah, it's definitely been quite some time.
Yes, sir. I feel like the last time we connected, we were both babies pretty much. It was a decade ago, if I
Yeah,
remember
pretty much.
correctly.
Yep.
2015, Jeet was you were on the show and man, I found you. I don't even know how learned about you. I think it was like a website that highlighted a lot of young entrepreneurs and I was like, man, this guy because at the time I was just like getting into entrepreneurship. I was deciding, do I want to go and do this corporate thing? Do I want to become a cognitive psychologist or do I want to do things on my own? And I remember reading like Robert Kiyosaki books and I started researching young entrepreneurs and I was like, who's this Jeet Banerjee guy that keeps popping up on these all these lists? Man, so tell us about that. Like you did this entrepreneurship. I mean, you were a hustler from day one. Ever since I've known you, you have had venture after venture after venture. You've toggled from one thing to the next. How did your life start? Like, how did you, are you from the US? Where were you born? Tell us some of those details.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in California. So born and raised in the US. Obviously a son of immigrant parents. So my parents, they came here while they were pregnant with me, essentially, and they had no money, no job, nothing. My dad just came out here to chase the American dream, and his timing wasn't the best because, he at the time when he was coming here, he didn't know that, he would be having a son and all these other responsibilities and things. But yeah, so that's kind of how really I got thrown into this world. And so from an early age, I really got to understand and witness the struggle firsthand. Like my dad used to work two jobs. I used to, he's working almost 18 hours a day. He used to work a gas station job at night, corporate job during the day, just to kind of support me and my mom and the family. So I never got to see him, but I got to see what he was about and what he was doing. And the biggest thing that got instilled to me from a young age was this concept of hard work, right? And that if you work hard, you can achieve your dreams. And that's kind of what I got to witness firsthand, right? Like we had nothing, grew up in, probably the not so best neighborhoods, and slowly watching my dad's hard work pay off to a point where, we're in a better neighborhood now, instead of me not getting anything for, my birthdays, now I can have a birthday party or like little things like that. And so that's really where my journey got started. That's really what I say, like instilled my beliefs inside of me and that hunger inside of me. And pretty much once I started going to school, obviously being a kid of an immigrant parent, your parents always want, especially in our culture, it's like, hey, doctor, lawyer, school, 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 school. And that my dad was always reminding me like, oh, I sacrificed everything so that you could go be a doctor or a lawyer. And here I was not being able to, pass my algebra one class, right? So it was kind of this like catch 22 where he wanted me to go to school and be this great doctor or something. And I can't even, make it through a semester of my high school classes. And so I became really frustrated with high school and just like studying and tests and stuff like that. And then my journey really began with realizing at an early age that I wasn't meant to, have a boss and be told what to do and to follow instructions. I had to really carve out my own path. And there's two paths to it, right? You could have a very destructive path when you'd go that route, or you could have a very productive path. And obviously, in my younger days, it was definitely a little bit more destructive, got in a lot of trouble, wasn't passing classes, ditching high school, stuff like that. But once I was able to channel it into the right path, that's kind of where the idea of entrepreneurship came about.
Man, quite a quite a story. I want to pivot a little bit because you ran a famous experiment and apparently you found out the best time to start a business was age 25. So you tell us a little bit about that experiment. You interviewed all these people that were over the age of 25, and you interviewed all these people that were under the age of 25. And apparently the people over the age of 25 said they were too old. People under the age said they were too young. So you were like, is 25 the right age? You know? So
Yeah.
what prompted you to run this experiment? You gave a TEDx talk on this as well, which is one of the most inspirational talks I've seen. And I've asked myself that question so many times, if not now, then when? What inspired you to come up with this idea?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like when I became an entrepreneur at a very early age at 17 years old. And part of being an entrepreneur, like I wanted to surround myself with as many other entrepreneurs and like-minded people. Anytime you have a passion, you want people around you that are going to feel that passion. And basically where I grew up and where I came from, there wasn't a lot of people that were chasing the same path as me, whether it was my friends, whether it was my cousins, things like that. And they were all from different, age groups and spectrums. And every single time, like I would talk to people, they'd be like, yeah, I have this great dream and I want to do this and I want to do that. And then when I'd ask them, okay, so why aren't you doing it? Everyone would always make an excuse. And I kind of became like obsessed with it to the point where I was like, is this just my friend group or is this how the majority of people think? So I just started going to random places, whether it was malls, like parking lots and stuff like that, and just asking people this question. And pretty much the conversations I had were absolutely fascinating. The results of the conversation, which I shared on the TED Talk, were fascinating. And once I kind of had these conversations with all these different people, I realized like, man, I need to share what I've learned from this experiment, which just started out for fun to figure out, for my own curiosity. I was like, I think the rest of the world needs to hear this. I think it can inspire people.
Wow. That's crazy, man. Giving a TED Talk at that kind of age, I think is just incredible in itself. But that was a very fascinating story. I can absolutely see how that's a message worth sharing. And I've learned a lot from that myself. And I feel like I've applied that principle to my life so many times is we all get into this habit of thinking what's the right timing, decision fatigue or analysis paralysis, whatever you want to call it. But all of us seem to forget that there's one common denominator, time. Like we don't have the time to think about and make all the right moves. Sometimes you just have to find not the best move in life, but just a good move just to go to the next position, just like a game
Mm-hmm.
of chess, right? So I thought that was a really interesting message. So fast forward from that, you also wrote a book, Limitless Thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. Tell us about this book. I know a little bit about this book. I haven't read the book. I will be honest with you, but I'm very curious to see what inspired you in that book and what was your core message in that book.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I kind of continued going through my entrepreneurial journey, there was a lot of breakthroughs and a lot of barriers that I was able to break through. And I'm talking mainly mentally speaking, because I truly believe that anybody can achieve anything. It's just the limits in our mind that hold us back. And I think a lot of the biggest problem is that there's a lack of education out there for that. I think a lot of very successful people have kept their secrets within them for a very long period of time and they don't share them unless it's with like family or whatever it is. And if you're a person that, let's say you just don't come from wealth, right? Or you didn't have a lot of money growing up or something like that, like I did, I felt like it was very, very difficult to figure out how to become successful, how to become wealthy, and how to achieve my dreams. And if someone would have just told me that it was all in my head, right? And nothing exterior mattered, I think it would have simplified the process. It would have saved me a lot of time and a lot of like just struggles in general, right? And I think the biggest reason people quit on their dreams is because of the mental roadblocks that they have. So, and I realize this with conversations with tons and tons of aspiring dreamers and entrepreneurs. And so the idea for the book came about as just like putting together a very what's the word I'm looking for? A very easy to apply strategy of how the things in your mind are really the things that are blocking you from achieving your dreams and just laying out all of those things because as I went through my journey, I know step by step what things were obstacles or blocks mentally for me that were holding me back from reaching the next level and reaching the next level, right? Just like you said, like giving a TEDx speech at such a young age, right? I think that's like a very big mental perception it's like a mental perception that a lot of people have is like they have a certain idea in their brain that, oh, you should be probably 40 plus if you give a TEDx talk, right? But it's like, why not at 19? Why not at 18? And the reason is that a lot of people just don't take that step because they think it's not appropriate, but nobody has said it's appropriate. It's just what the perception is. So the whole concept of the book, Limitless Thinking, was to basically break through those shackles that your mind puts on you and showing people what some of those shackles are and how they can overcome it.
Man, the way you think and the way you talk kind of reminds me of if David Goggins was to come into the business world and was a business magnate instead. I mean, he is a business person too, but I feel like you take his mindset of just like never stopping, never limiting yourself, setting goals that you know you can't reach, goals that are so high, so crazy that even if you don't reach them, just he basically says in his book that if you set a goal that you can reach, that you think you can reach, you haven't set the right goals, you know? And you also mentioned this idea of surrounding yourself with those kind of people that think similar. He calls it finding people in his foxhole, like in the foxhole that are similar mindset that are all pushing each other. I think that's huge. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So that kind of brings me to this question I wanted to ask you is, you've kind of done everything from the ground up and you've done things very in non-conventional way. What would you say, how much do you think the power of networking helped you? You have all these great ideas, you've always been a hustler, you've been a go-getter, but I feel like a lot of people, a lot of us that start from nothing, we need the help of mentors, right? We need someone that has already done the things we want to accomplish. How did you go about surrounding yourself with those people that helped pave the path for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And yeah, for me, it was very difficult because when I became an entrepreneur, I was 17, right? So like my friends, nobody was chasing the same path as me. Where I was at, nobody was chasing the same path at me. You know what I mean? People were setting up parties for Friday nights and hangouts and all that kind of stuff. So early on, I really had to, like what I like to call is like a James Harden ISO. I had to literally isolate myself from all of my friends and everybody and just kind of be solo because I knew that, like, yeah, it might just be one party, it might be one hangout, but every single time I do that, I am, giving into the other side and I'm taking away time from what I could be achieving. So initially, I had to really isolate and figure that out. And then over time, it just became like, okay, I wanted to see what other people were achieving that I thought was like, wow, that's impressive, or that's something I want to achieve, or that's someone I want to be someday. And a lot of it just started out with like cold outreach, right? And the biggest thing I say is like, if you're looking to network and you're kind of isolated in that box and you don't have anybody, the worst thing you can do is just ask, ask, ask. So it's all about the intention with what you reach out with. So while I knew I wanted to be around these people and while I knew that they were very successful and things like that, there wasn't anything that I essentially wanted to take from them, right? I just wanted to like be around them, be around their air, just like breathe the same air they do, just like see how they operate, how they work. I just wanted to learn from afar. And so the biggest thing, like when I started out is I do outreach. I'd be like, hey, can we go grab coffee? I'd be happy to buy you a cup of coffee. Or, hey, I found this opportunity for you that might be very interesting. I want to take you out to lunch. Lunch is on me. Boom. And so when you've got people with, $100 million net worth, who are constantly around people who are asking, 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 taking, and all of a sudden they've got somebody they may not necessarily know, but they're like, wait a minute, this guy is giving me something. It's completely changed that conventional pattern of thought that they have. They're going to be very open to it. And, when you give, people will reciprocate and give you that same gratitude back 10 times over. And that's really how I got my foot in the door. And then it was just, at the end of the day, it's just being you and being a good person, I feel like takes you very far in this world.
100%. I think you hit on a topic that I've been thinking about a lot recently. And I'm a single guy, I'm not married, and I have a family like you at the moment. So I've been really doing a lot of cold approaching, just
Mhm.
going outside, finding an attractive girl, and just starting a conversation without having any reason, any need, anything. And I started thinking about this and I started realizing, holy crap, like this just opened up so many possibilities now. Like now I don't have to worry about where the cute girls are hanging out, what city they're in. I can be in any city, walk into a Walmart and start a conversation with a stranger and come back with either a great experience, hopefully, as long as you have good social calibration skills, or maybe a phone number to a date. I started thinking, why not do this with other areas of your life, right? You mentioned the power of networking. You were taking these people out to lunch and coffee, and you were saying, hey, I have a great opportunity for you. What you essentially did is you identified from a distance someone that you think might be interesting or high net worth or successful or whatever it may be influential that you need to know. And you basically use the power of reciprocity. You gave something for free. Hey, I'd love to treat you to lunch. Lunch is on me. I just want to, I want to learn more about you. And you leverage Dale Carnegie's principles. Talk to someone about themselves and they will listen for hours. And that
Yep.
was one of his key principles. People love talking about what they're doing. They're passionate. These entrepreneurs that you mentioned, if someone's net worth 100 million, 200 million, I don't think they're in it for money at this point. They're passionate about what they're doing. Many people. So if you show interest in what they're doing, I feel like you get them to invest, by investing in them, then get them to invest in you a little bit and build that relationship over time. As you said, you've got this huge network that you've seemed like you've built. and you're introducing these people to each other. So now you're the connector between them, and they find value in you. They're like, oh, okay, I know this person through Jeet. Jeet connected me to him. You're the common glue between them. Do you feel like that's kind of how you approached it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, my intention at that time was like I was very innocent in the world of entrepreneurship, the world of business, and the world of life. So my intentions were very, very pure. And like the best example I like to give, is something I read years later actually, is kind of this. It was like a book about, I think it's like Tim Grover's book where he's talking about Michael Jordan and Kobe. And
Hmm.
he says that the most fascinating thing about was Kobe just wanted to see what Michael Jordan did. How does he train? How does he eat? What does he do before he gets to the gym? What does he do after? What time does he get there? What is he doing in the off season? Like every little detail. And that's really what it was for me too, where it was like, oh, this guy's worth $100 million. I don't want his money. I don't want his connections. I don't want him to invest in my business. I just want to watch the guy because I'm like, if I could watch this guy for a couple hours and mentally note everything down, I'm very good, and that's been my personality since I was very young at absorbing the
Yeah.
energy around me and absorbing what other people do. So that was my pure intention behind it. And it was just
Yeah.
like, man, I just want to be in your presence. That's all it was. And
Brilliant.
that's what really was, such it had such a pure intention behind it. And like you said, people love talking about themselves. People love, sharing their own experiences. So that made things a lot easier.
Yeah, man. You figured out secrets to life that take people decades to figure out. You realize that if I could just be around these people, I can understand what their lifestyles are like, right? As you mentioned, you just want to see what their mindset is like. And yes, Tim talks about this in Relentless several times. There are different types of people, cleaners and all these characters that he mentions. And Kobe had that in him. He had that level of humility, and he was able to always step down from his ego to be and to identify people that were better than him, that knew more than him. And he associated himself with those peoples and their character to get to that point. So, Jeet, I want to talk to you a couple of things. So, tell us about what are you doing to these days? Like, what is your ventures? What keeps you busy now?
Yeah, absolutely. Nowadays, so I have a digital marketing agency. That's kind of like my primary day to day. I have a lot of kind of divested a little bit. So I have a lot of investments and things like that, investments in different companies, investments in, real estate and just across the board. So those are like the two main things that I'm doing right now. And then obviously my biggest passion, which has been since day one, is just spreading these ideas, right? I think ideas are very powerful. And if you can plant the seeds in the right people at the right time, I think, the potential is limitless, like I say, in my book. So just any way that I can, helping other entrepreneurs, spreading ideas, sharing knowledge, and just trying to pass it on to other people and anything that I've learned through my journey so far.
Amazing. You're also a family guy nowadays. So you're balancing business with family. Do you feel like how do you do that? Like how if those of us that have family obligations, we have kids, we have a wife, all these different things. How do you know when to shut that laptop screen down, when to put that phone down?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I think a lot of it is just like scheduling, balance, routine, discipline. I always attribute that to those things. And I always tell people, right? Like somebody, for example, will be obesely overweight and they'll be like, I want to be successful as an entrepreneur. And I'll tell them how you do one thing is how you're going to do everything in life. Take care of your body and your health, the chances that you become successful as an entrepreneur is very, very low, right? And for me, it's the same thing. How I do one thing is how I do everything, right? Like if I go play a game of pickup basketball, I am going to give you the same intensity, the same competitiveness that I do while I'm working, right? Like for me, it's not, oh, let's have fun and let's fool around. It's like, no, I'm there to win. I'm there to achieve results. And so the
Mm.
same thing goes when you're balancing, business, family, work, whatever it could be, right? Is just having that discipline, right? Like if I make a commitment of, hey, these are the hours I'm going to work and these are the hours they're going to be family time or whatever it is, just staying disciplined to it, right? Staying consistent with it and just
Yeah.
building habits that are good. And I think it's, a lot of people said that like, oh, when you have a family, life is going to be so tough, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be, like all these, obstacles and roadblocks that people put in their minds. But for me, I always tell people all the time, it's like, no matter what challenge comes in life, I'll figure it out. I figured out everything else. Why can't I figure this out? Right. So that's always been my approach is just approaching things not as like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But rather, I'll do it. No problem.
Hmm. Fair enough. Fair enough. Jeet, last question I like to ask all of my guests, and you're an author, so besides your own book, what would you say is the most influential book you've ever read, and why was it so influential to your life?
So it would definitely be the first book I ever read when I turned 17 years old, which really turned me into the path of entrepreneurship. It's called Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. I
Hmm.
It was such an influential book in my life because it literally showed in the book two roadmaps: the roadmap of a person that pursued a corporate job versus the roadmap of a person that pursued their own dreams and their own entrepreneurial venture, and kind of outlined, the whole journey of the two paths. And I think if you read that book, you find out if corporate job is the route for you or if being an entrepreneur is the route for you. Because as you read the book, you're going to automatically gravitate. It's like, when you watch a movie and you hate one character and you love one character, it's exactly that. That's the exact feeling that's going to be invoked in you. And
Right.
that's what I attribute to honestly being able to find my calling and getting that confirmation. Because at that time, I was like, I don't know, maybe I want to work a corporate job, maybe I don't. But that one confirmed to me, like, oh, yeah, if I go corporate job route, this is how I'm going to feel. And it's a miserable feeling versus entrepreneurial one. It's a great feeling. And the best way to explain it, you know what I mean? Some people, when they hear risk, right? A word like risk, their heart starts beating, they start clenching, things like that. And then they might hear, a word like steady, routine. They feel comfortable, they feel warm.
Mhm.
It's things like that that you'll find in the book where you'll know what your calling is very, very quickly.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's possible to be successful going both routes. Plenty of
Mm-hmm.
corporate people are multi-millionaires, even billionaire status. But as you said, not all of us are cut from the same cloth. And figuring that fork in the path early and trying to decide what type of personality we are, what makes us happy ultimately, right? Some people, as you said, they hate risk. Some people have different propensity for risk. But I think I'm definitely going to add that to my list as well. I actually haven't never read that book or even heard of it, but I definitely will add it to the list. Judy, you're a busy guy. I want to get you back into your next meeting. So thank you so much, man. This was super, super valuable. I've learned a lot just from this conversation, and I am super excited to bring you back to my podcast again. Hopefully not in 10 years, but sooner than that.
Absolutely. No, it was a pleasure to be on here and definitely can't wait for the next one.
Awesome, man. Take care, Jeet. Have a good
Brother, I
one.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, bye.